Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's time to install the heater. Now if you've been watching my videos in order, you'll notice that in the last few videos obviously we've been talking about the car once it's been painted in that sort of lovely green and gold chameleon flip colour. But in the next part of this video you'll notice somehow it's gone back to its blue gel coat again. Now I'm not experimenting with time travel, and no, I'm not building a DeLorean underneath the Cobra. It's just that I've filmed some of these bits and pieces of build in different orders, and when I come to actually put them together, obviously I've got different things going on with the car. So let's get into it. I'm Unfa and this is my build of a Gardner Douglas 427 Mark IV. Now, as my friends and colleagues outside the UK will know, we Brits do like to talk about the weather a bit. And whilst I don't think I've waxed lyrical about the weather on this channel so far, there is good reason here. Now, there is a school of thought that says in the UK, owning a convertible car or a roadster like a Cobra is pretty pointless, because historically we've always had pretty much no more than about 40 to 50 days a year worth of half-decent weather where it's actually worth taking a car like this out. In anything other than that, you've frankly got to be a complete lunatic to take a 500 horsepower rear-wheel drive car with no ABS, no traction control, no stability control, etc. out in that kind of weather. So, am I a lunatic? Well, I guess we'll see. But there is thankfully another school of thought that says roof down unless the storm has a name. Now, I can get on board with that kind of mentality, but as I've got a hard top, I've kind of got options for all weathers, so that's okay. But really we want to talk about what comes next. What are we going to do with heating and cooling the inside of the car? That's what we need to talk about. So as Mrs. F and others may well be riding shotgun, I do need to think about keeping the interior comfortable. So with terrible UK weather, typically having a heater is a good option. Of course, if you're building a car like this from scratch, you've got options to think about heating and cooling and so on. But the thing that's making me question my judgment, given that I am just going for a heater, is just the weather in the UK at the moment. It's uncharacteristically hot. I think we're on our 4th heat wave of the year. And I plan to drive the car around Europe, where, if you've seen the news lately, you've got wildfires in Spain, wildfires across France. It's all a bit mad. The climate's gone mad lately. So I guess the question is, am I going to get this right? Is just going for a heater a good idea? If I don't go for a heater, then you know the car would be cooler all round. But having a heater, I think, is going to make the car much more useful throughout longer periods of the year. But if I don't go for aircon, I mean, on the one hand, it does keep things a lot more simple. There's no need for a belt-driven compressor. There's no refrigerant hoses. There's no dealing with an extra unit. You've got a nice small compact heater unit. But thinking about sitting in traffic, sitting when we're not moving in that heavy heat, then is that going to be a good idea? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. At the moment, the channel's focusing on building the car, and of course when I actually get to drive it, I'll be flipping the focus of the channel and talking much more about what it's like to drive the car and trying to document some of those experiences. So will I regret not getting air conditioning? I guess we'll find out. So back to installing the heater then. This is part one, where I'll be dealing with just fitting the unit itself behind the near side wheel arch in the compartment closure, safely tucked away there, and just focusing on the hoses around the engine bay, how all of those get routed, and just really fitting that, getting that piece right. And then in the second video, I'll deal with the wiring and then all of the interior ducting and the vents and so on. So let's get into it. So this is the heater box. Fan in the back there, a couple of pipes, and that sits up inside. Let's just go around and get under the car here again for a second and put the light on. This is one of the compartments inside the wheel arch here. This is the near side wheel arch, passenger side. So this compartment in here is eventually going to house the battery in the bottom. And if I can just get up there and show the top, there's a compartment right up in the top there. That's where that heater box is going to sit. And we come around and look, and just look inside the passenger footwell. That will tuck right up in there. There's a little hole on the right there, but this will poke out just at the top left-hand corner, the top of the passenger footwell there. And of course, that'll all be behind the dashboard once that's in place. So, how do we do that? Just turn the light off again for a second. So on the back of the heater box here, this is the two pipes that run inside the cabin, come through the bulkhead. I've just put a template piece of cardboard on the back there and put 4 screws through it, so that when I pop this back inside that wheel arch compartment, I can then mark the holes out and be able to drill straight through that. What I'm going to try and do is actually stick this to the inside of the compartment, and that'll hopefully give me a nice tidy template where I can just drill straight through. So let's give that a go. Important to get the cutout for the heater the right way round here. It is actually asymmetric, so make sure you've got it the right way up, and make sure you give yourself enough clearance from the engine bay side, because if you put the heater too close, you can make it really difficult to get the hoses on, as I found with it a little bit too close in my install. So make sure you're giving yourself plenty of clearance. And of course you can't build a Cobra without the help of your trusty pooch. Hello, Freddy. Are you helping? Not really, but you do like a belly rub. Yeah. So the heater has a couple of these little nozzles, connectors on the side here. One comes out straight, one comes out at an angle, and you get this little 90-degree rubber bend to go on the one with an angle, so that you can get that through into the engine bay. Then you've got these lovely couple of pieces of custom designed stainless steel tubing, and a couple of 90-degree bends on there, and then the one at the top you have a little brass union insert that you'll put in this one up here, and that'll just join those two together. So the idea is to try and get this as tidy as possible, and I think it's quite clear we're going to have to cut this one down and this guy down and probably this one down in order to make this fit nicely. And with these guys, you want these to sit flush against the side of the engine bay, so they'll be sitting in here. So you can see just how much of this piping we might need to cut down. So let's just get a bit of trimming going on. So when we actually come to fit the heater, we've got a bit of a multi-dimensional problem here. We've got 2 holes at the top for the pipes that come out of the heater feeding the hot air into the car, and then we've got 2 smaller holes on the left there that the hoses come in from the engine bay to feed the heater. And we're going to need to put the heater up into that slot and rotate those pipes in, because there isn't an awful lot of clearance in the way that I've cut the holes here. So let's have a quick look at that. So on the heater we've got 2 pipes, a straight one, and we've got actually one that comes up with a slight angle on it, and this is the one that's the problem. So when we're trying to rotate the heater in and we get these pipes through the back, we've actually got to rotate it up inside that enclosure behind the wheel well, whilst also getting this pipe through. And the problem I found is that certainly where I've cut the slots for this, there's really very little clearance this side in order to be able to feed the pipe through from the engine bay and slot it onto this and then tighten this up. So what I've elected to do is pop the union clamp on first. I've put it this side so that it's near the front of the car, so if we do ever need to get in there, we should be able to get a 7mm socket on this small union clamp and be able to undo that. But I think the reality is, once we've fitted this, if we ever need to take it out, we'll be undoing the 4 bolts from the inside of the car and then undoing the joins that are actually inside the engine bay, and then this whole thing we will just slide out and rotate out that way, and this will probably never come off, but just in case we'll put it on that way around. Right, so with the heater tucked up inside that enclosure now, and looking over the top here, that L-shaped 90-degree bend pipe now coming out into the engine bay, we've now got 2 more to fit. So the first one is going to go straight through the other hole there onto the straight pipe coming out of the heater, and that's going to give us an angle. It looks a bit like that. And the other one, we're actually going to join to this one, and we're going to use one of these brass union joints just to connect that in there. So we'll have to cut this back a bit, and then these will actually angle down slightly in order to get the pipes that are going to run along this chassis cross rail or cross member at some point. So we'll do that next. So let's put these lovely stainless steel tubes in here. I'm just going to lay them on the chassis roll here, and I'm just going to line them up against the first hose here, which I've now put through and is actually secured to the heater on the other side, but I've slit a union clamp over here just ready to tighten up on this joint. just going to slide this on here a bit. And there isn't actually a lot on there, but I mean there's enough to get a clamp on there, but that's okay. I might actually pack that under here with a couple of washers just to lift that up a little bit and help that. So there's, where are we? There's probably a couple of inches on there, maybe an inch and a half. That should be plenty. Okay, so I'll have that sitting there like that, and what I'm going to do is, I suppose this could move back and forth a fair bit, so let's see how this sits with the other one. The other one's one that's a bit more complicated. So we've got this other 90-degree angle, and we're going to slide that over there, but we're going to have to cut this down to suit, and what we'll end up with is the union, the brass coupler in the middle of these two. So we'll have to cut this one back, say to about here, and then put the union clamp in there, and cut this one down to suit so that we line up there and join those two together. So let's do that. So after a couple of cuts just to trial fit that, we've ended up with quite a short angle there, but that's to join up with this union, and just looking down, eyeing it on the top here, that looks perfect now. So a couple more union clamps and we'll be good. Right, that's those couple of elbows put in, and we can now move on to drilling in this guy. Now I think what I'm going to do, before I actually drill the holes and probably pop a couple of rivnuts through there to bolt that in place, I'm going to mock up the rest. So from this corner we've got another one of these twin sets of pipes that sits underneath the coolant tank, and another couple of pairs of pipes to cut just to join those up. So I think I'll mock that up first, and then we'll see where all of this sits, then drill the holes. So now that we've got the heater fitted and the hoses just through to the engine bay, just through the bulkhead there, poking through into the engine bay, what I found is the next best thing to do to make sure you've got the hoses all cut the right size is actually to then start at the opposite end. So you go over to the water pump side, fit those hoses round into the stainless steel section that sits underneath the chassis cross member across the middle, get those hoses all cut round, and then with the last hoses ready to join up with that stainless steel section on the side chassis cross member, which I'm about to look at, then that will be the easiest way, just to guarantee the hoses are all the right size and shape, and it's all fitted tidily. Right, I've cut two 35cm lengths of flexi pipe there, and that's going to be perfect just to fit around that corner. Now down here I've already fitted these two hoses. The one towards the front of the car there, the connector on the front of the pump there is just a little bit fatter, so that pipe took a little bit of squeezing and twisting to get on. But I've cut two lengths here. One is actually 40 and one's 45cm. The one at the back just a touch longer, and that'll help it bend around this angle and then join up with those stainless steel pipes once I've fixed those. So I've just taken one of these flexi pipes and just threaded it round, just holding it here. I reckon we're probably going to need, measuring this, we're going to need about 35cm worth. So I'm just going to mark off and hold on to a section there and get an idea. It's going to be about there. Okay, so we've got some other pipes set up now ready to come in here, so we can just, with this in position now, we can drill this guy in. So every now and then when you're putting a rivnut in, you end up breaking off a mandrel, because I'm too ham-fisted. And you can drill these out, but these are hardened steel, so ideally you only really want to do that if you've got access to the back of wherever this thing has gone. And at the moment, if I drill that out, all of that rubbish is going to end up inside the chassis, and I don't really want all those rattles. So I'm going to have to try and tease this out with a screwdriver. And I can't drill a hole into the middle of it because none of my drill bits will fit, and they keep breaking off because, again, it's hardened steel. So bear with me, and we are going to try and pull this out by tickling it round out of the rivnut. Tickle, tickle.
Stay on target. Almost there.
Yay! Bloody hell. Look at that. All sheared off. Try not to tighten it up so much next time, silly bugger. There we go. We'll swap to the angle head drill, which will just about get in there. Right, with the first one done and in the right place, now we can undo this again and give ourselves a bit more space to get at that with the bigger drill bits. There we go. Lovely. Right, let's get another rivnut in there. Hopefully that will fit. That might be a challenge too. Alright, will the rivnut tool fit? Oh, just. Look at that. Not much clearance. Right, hopefully that's sufficient. Let's see. Yeah, that looks good. Right, let's bolt these both in. Okay, now just to fit these couple of pipes. So a little recap, we had those couple of elbow joints coming out there, fitted to those couple of stainless steel bars, rivnutted M4 bolts through the chassis there, M4 rivnuts, into two pieces of flexible rubber pipe, both of those 35 centimeters long, terminating just before the end of the coolant tank there, onto the next piece of paired stainless steel tubing which runs underneath, and onto that cross member that's rivnutted up underneath there, and then two pieces of rubber again, one 40 centimeters, one 45, coming around and joining up with the engine on the side of the water pump there. Cool. So with that ducting, we'll have a Y-piece adapter, and the hoses will come over, split, and you'll have one run that will come down into the sort of footwell area, keep your feet warm, and one on the other side. And then the other one you can split to come up and come underneath the dash and actually heat the windscreen for you. So you just about make out. There's a couple of little holes there. I was going to have those filled because I've actually got a heated windscreen, so I don't really need the heated vents there, but I'll use them anyway, and then we'll get the ducting up under there. But we'll do that in another video. So that's the end of another video. Really pleased getting those bits and pieces out of the way. Next time we're on to fitting the pedal box. This is a nice adjustable item. My wife is just over 5 foot and I'm 6'2", so it would be great if we can move the pedals back and forth as well as adjustment in the seat. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, thanks for watching.